The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and
He missed the complete that. He's crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through. He tags Richard.
What better way to get the month of August kicked off on sim racing with a short track Saturday night from the Oxford Plains Speedway. It is the Bootleg Racing League Outlaw Modified Series 2015 Season 3 Championship continuing to roll on our global sim racing channel with round 4 of 11 in this third quarter title fight for tonight's Quality Racing Syndicate 75. The drivers of the Bootleg Racing League Outlaw Modified Series currently out on the racetrack getting in their final 30-minute warm-up session before we go green flag racing tonight for 75 laps. We do want to welcome you, though, up into the Global Sim Racing Channel broadcast tower alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, Samuel Ryman. Our director this evening is Joe Peak, and Dougie Beard, as always, provided us with our camera set. Sam, going to be up here with you again. Been a little bit of time, but it's a short track Saturday night, as we said, and these guys and the bootleggers and these SK Modifieds always put on such an exciting show, and for the fourth time on this third quarter season of action, we go to a racetrack that's different than anything we've seen so far. Oxford is very flat. It's also very circular, a very hard track to drive.
It is, absolutely, and 75 laps doesn't seem like a lot of time, and honestly, if we get a lot of green flag racing, it'll go by quickly, but you bet for those drivers it'll seem like a long time just constantly turning that wheel left, and I'm not putting a NASCAR stereotype here, that is how you have to drive this track at Oxford Plains Speedway. Some drivers love it, some drivers hate it. It is only half a mile a lap around, so 75 laps around here will be 37.5 miles in total. Doesn't sound like a lot, but once again, let the drivers talk to you about that once the race is over. We have about 6.5 minutes left of warm-up. As a reminder to our viewers, there is no qualifying session ahead of a race. The starting grid is based off of where they finished the last race. We will get to that in a moment. And, I don't know, Evan, we got about 6 minutes left of warm-up here, and currently the fastest is Ronald Henry, and in fact all the drivers are within 7/10 of another, so it could be a good race tonight.
You saw the track map there of the Oxford Plains Speedway, a very circular facility, and you know when you're talking about left turns, that is all this is. I don't think your wheel's going to go much past a degree to the left as far as, unless that machine's getting sideways. Only 9 degrees of banking. You can kind of talk about a track like the Martinsville Speedway, like we saw in the season opener with this series, just because of the curbing that's down on the inside of the racetrack. That's the only thing that you can compare them to, and the fact that it's a very low banking racetrack. Everybody's down there, and essentially, if you can hug the bottom, it's going to be extremely difficult for somebody to put a pass on you unless they move you out of the way. We have seen time and time again in this series that when push comes to shove into the final 10, final 5 laps of these races, that Chrome Horn is most certainly at the top of the options list as far as what these drivers have the ability to do. The first part of the doubleheader Saturday night with the Bootleg Racing League is already in the books. These drivers, many of which are competing in both, just completed the Crookstill late model race, which happens just before we go on air with the Bootleg Racing League Outlaw Modified Series. Philip Temples took home the win in that one just by a couple of tenths over Donnie Moore in a close race to the end of that one. Philip Temples is 4th on the racetrack right now. Donnie Moore is 5th as far as how they sit in practice time. So some racetracks you'll see guys that run strong in those late models, run strong in the SKs. Those two drivers that won that one doing pretty good right now. But you mentioned Ronald Henry, the 75 Club Texas machine, top of the board right now by a tenth quicker than anybody else. He's got something figured out.
Absolutely, and it's very difficult to get something figured out around here. It's one of those tracks where it takes you a while to work out how your car handles best around here. Let's also remind our viewers that these are fixed setups, and I was turning a couple of laps in before the session started, and for me I actually found it quite tight around here. And the problem is, with the flat track and the constant left turn and the tightness, Evan, these drivers aren't allowed to come in and change tyres. Those right front tyres may be getting a bit of a workout tonight, and who knows if that means we'll see comers and goers as the race goes on. Perhaps some drivers sitting in the middle of the field may have a better right front tyre in the closing laps.
So we head into this round 4 on this 2015 Season 3 Championship. Take a look at the updated championship standings into tonight's race. It is Season 1 champion Lowell Jewell, who had a disappointing Season 2, sits atop the championship standings overall with 32 points, but you can see how close everything is. Just 1 point back to Tim Knott, who's second. An essential tie for 3rd and 4th between 2 points back for Donnie Moore and Ryan Nuss, and Ronald Henry is 3 points back in 5th. Although it looks very tight, it is, but the way the point structure works in this series, it is very difficult if you're a guy like Ronald Henry to make up those 3 points, because the race winner walks away with 14 points. Second position gets 13. It continues to go down by 1 all the way until you get to 8th position, who gets 7 points, and then 9th through 11th get 6, 12th through 14th get 5th, and etc. So the points are very, very tight with 15 drivers. Dead last is going to get you 4, first is going to get you 14. So although there is a big spread, when you continuously have the same 5, 6, 7 guys up near the top, a couple of spots off each other each race, it keeps things so tight. Look at the Season 2 Championship. We had a 3-way tie with 2 races to go. Although it's still early, and after tonight we kind of passed the 1/3 mark in this title fight. Don't take that tightness up top as being for granted, because Lowell Jewell, who is at the top, yet to get a win as well, which is very interesting. The other guys on the podium right now on points do have trips to victory lane.
Absolutely, and even though we're at a 3rd race distance, after next round we will have 5 out of 11 laps out of 11 rounds completed, which is pretty much halfway. So you're really going to want to have your name up top heading into the second half of the season. We currently have 2 minutes of practice left here at the Speedway. And looking at the temperatures here today, it's 95 degrees and a small bit of a wind, so we'll wait and see how that affects the drivers. But as you say, Ronald Henry is currently the top of the practice times by a tenth of a second, 600ths actually. But the problem with that, Evan, is that Ronald finished 3rd the last race, and so that means, providing everyone starts here, he'll have to start 6th tonight, which might not be the position he wants to find himself in on the grid.
The fielded versions are always an exciting thing to figure out. Again, the top 8 are just going to swap up from where they were last week, and then outside of there is going to be set by iRating for the rest of the grid in this one. If you weren't with us 1 week ago, it was round 3 in the championship for the Five Flag Speedway for the Skidder Creek 75. Tim Knott took home the win in that one, walked away with the 14 points that were up for grabs. He took that one home over top of Ryan Gavel, Ronald Henry, Ernest Brown, and Lowell Jewell were your top 5 finishers from that one. But you look at this Oxford Plains Speedway, again, it's different from anything that we've seen. We're not going to see anything like it for the rest of this championship. Big things to note is there is no outside retaining wall. You can clearly see that. It's like this at many short tracks around the United States. Contact can easily send a car up and over that hill, and you'll go sliding into the grass for some time. Because you'll be off the racetrack, Sam, there's a good chance that the caution may not be automatically triggered by the iRacing service. That could be very crucial and detrimental for the guy that goes way out there, because it's going to take a long time to get back to the racetrack. But as well, strategy as far as, don't want to go wide here. But because everybody's hugging the curb in a quarter, I think the only place you might see a pass that doesn't involve a chrome horn once we get a long green flag running is guys really ducking at the bottom off the corner, because you take a really broad arc. You're making this a circle instead of 2 sets of corners in a straight.
And the practice session is finishing up right now, so soon we will see the cars getting gridded up. But you're talking about cars going out into no man's land on the outside of the circuit. They can also do the same on the inside, Evan. The track doesn't have a well-defined apron, but I can tell you from experience it's a very large apron, and we could see cars spin off onto the inside of the circuit as well and not bring out a caution. So don't be surprised if you see some cars pulling donuts today and the green flag still waving. Hopefully it won't happen too much. But you were talking about how easy it's going to be to change around positions here, Evan. And one thing we've got to consider, of course, for the this season is that they're doing double file restarts now. Last season they were only doing single file, if I recall correctly. And that could certainly turn things up on the restarts.
And that has definitely been one of the most exciting parts so far of this season. Restart's going to continue to be crucial, not only throughout the night, but especially this first one. Let's give you the GSRC starting grid as the field rolls off the start-finish line behind the pace car. It's going to be Brian Neff, who starts on pole position, over David Bodio, who starts in second. It's a third to Lowell Jewell, Ernest Brown in fourth, and Ronald Henry, fastest car in practice with a P5.
And then behind him, it's going to be Philip Temples in 6th place, followed by Matt Shanowski. Brad Speidel will be starting in 8th place, and then rounding out the 5th row in 9th and 10th will be Ryan Nuss and Donnie Moore as the pace car leads them around for the second of 2 pace laps here.
And lights go off this time by, one stick in the air, and we're going to go green flag racing this next time by. To round out the field, Matt Houston, the 21 machine, will start at 11th, its 12th position to Dennis Alice. Lucas Denziano will 13th, 14th position to Ty W. Johnson, and Ralph Connor Jr. will round out your field in 15th position. 75 laps on tap tonight for the Oxford Plains Speedway. We're glad to have you with us on the Global Sim Racing channel. Pace car down and away. Brian Neff in control of the field at a quarter number 4. Green flag flies, and this quality sim racing kit is green down to quarter 1. Already trouble down in the back of the pack. One driver way out and in the grass. It's Dennis Ellis.
Yes, but he gets back on and we stay green. I have a feeling David Badillo, who is currently leading the field right now, I have a feeling that start took a lot of the drivers off guard, Evan. I think the green flag was waving before the leader decided to go, and people were wondering, well, do we go now or do we wait for Brian Neff to hit the loud pedal? And that really shook up the middle of the field and led to Dennis Ellis running off course.
And that would put Brian Neff back in second. Again, the leader, as you said, pace car down. He can go and whenever he wants from that point to the actual drop of a green flag, but not a whole lot of difference between the pit road entry and the start-finish line. Green flag dropped pretty quickly, and it was the outside to the 16 who got the advantage, and that's what has David Bodio at the top of the standings right now. We're single file through this entire field on lap number 4. The 7 to Dennis Ellis, who had those issues, he's been able to get back in line already up in front of Ryan Neff. So Ryan Ness, rather, that's at the back of the back there. But so far, single file, calm for the most part. The top 2 separated by a good 3 car lengths down into quarters number 3 and 4. Big pack between 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. That's Ernest Brown, Lowell Jewell, Ronald Henry, and Philip Temples. Those 4 drivers within about half a second of each other.
Absolutely, and the reason Ryan Nuss is at the back is because he had a little bit of a chrome horn run into the back of him a few laps ago. Let's not forget that Ryan Nuss is currently sitting 4th in the points, so he wants to have a solid points night, but that little bump in the back turned his car in the infield. He fell all the way down to the back, and he's going to have his work cut out for him for the rest of the night.
From side-by-side back in the pack sees Donnie Moore's machine, the number 26 car, going the right direction up from 9th to 8th. He put a pass on Matt Hoos for that battle as they get things single-filed out and figured out rather quickly. The top 2, though, are starting to pull away. It's something that we see that's very interesting in these SK Modifieds is, you know, always clean air, always a good thing. But you don't think it would be as big as a factor at these short tracks if you're talking, you know, Cup cars or Xfinity trucks at a 1.5 an intermediate racetrack or larger. But we see time and time again, a guy like Ronald Henry can dominate practice, but in traffic he can't do a lot. Now, caution flag, trouble on the front straightaway. Ryan Nuss, you saw that one, the pink number 13 involved in that. Heavy damage as well to Ralph Connor Jr.
Yeah, there were about 3 or 4 cars wadded up there on the front stretch. I have a feeling, and as you say, Ralph Connor Jr. smoking. The caution wasn't shown until about 5 seconds after the wreck took place, but finally they figured to throw it. Now, the rule with 3 repairs in this series is that you can take 1, Unfortunately for Ralph Connor Jr. and other drivers who might need to come into the pits for repairs, this track is very short and you're probably going to go a lap down in a hurry, so hopefully they'll be able to get into contention later on. We're currently only working lap 11 out of 75.
And you saw that incident on the racetrack. You take a look on board just behind where it all started with Ralph Connor Jr. 4 drivers involved total after the 71 got to the inside of the 57, and Lucas Denziano was turned around. The 13 and the 58 machines were the innocent victims in all of that. They get collected 4 cars, and that one was not going into a corner, so they didn't have to worry about a lack of external race wall, so they spun it out at a 4. Caution flag did fly. 3 of them at least do fall off at the lead lap. Nuss, Denziano, and Connor Jr. are 1 lap to the rears already. Talking about some big movers, not a whole lot of noise going on, but a decent pickup for some of these guys. Donnie Moore from 10th up to 8th, 11th to 9th for Matt Hoos. Ty W. Johnson from 14th to 11th. He really benefited from those cars in front of him wrecking altogether, picking up some spots there, but a relatively tame, I guess, opening stint of this race, albeit major incident at a quarter number 4, but now we're going to see what happens up at the front of the field, because now David Bodio is going to find himself on the inside, which is what hindered the 60 of Brian Neff. It allowed him to get the top spot over that 60 machine on the drop at a green flag. They'll swap where they'll be on the front row for this restart.
Ralph Connor Jr.'s modified still sitting in the pits. I'm not entirely sure what the story is behind that, as the base car lights go off because you're allowed a free repair. 2 drivers have fallen 1 lap down but taken their free repair, I assume, and that is Ryan Nuss and Lucas Stinziano. But Ralph Connor Jr., he might be out of contention, at least for the win right now. But David Bodio and Brian Neff are going to lead the field, so it'll be interesting to see who leads them at the start-finish line.
The pace car going to take the sharp left-hand turn down to the safety of pit road. It's the Jimmy John 16. Great restart for your race leader. Backing away down to quarter number 1. David Bodio clear of Brian Neff. Side by side, third on back, Lowell Jewell, the Edge Auto Concepts, 55. Odd man out. First car stuck up on the outside of the racetrack. The 19, the 26 join him up top.
And there is room for him to get down low, but the thing is, he probably doesn't know that. They shovel so much, there's so many different lines into the entry and out on the exit, you can never be sure if a car behind you is going to get a run on you, and Lowell didn't take the opportunity that he could have had, and as a result he's going to lose a position to Matt Janowski, moves up inside the top 5. And there's a spinner.
Trouble down in quarter 1 and 2. The 76 of Brad Speidel turned around. He'll get that machine spun back the right direction and spins it out again now, trying to get back up to speed. And now the caution flag will be thrown at the virtual Oxford Plains Speedway. Second yellow on the evening coming out. You already getting set to take a look at the replay for Brad Speidel. That machine got turned around, Sam. He pinned the gas, spun it back around to go the right direction, and either he did that a little bit quicker because he saw traffic coming or something, but got it back going the right direction, pinned the gas, spun out a second time, and the yellow came out.
Yeah, and I know he didn't mean to do that, but that's actually going to help him out. It will put him a lap down, but it will give him an opportunity, I think, to perhaps get a wave around or a lucky dog at some point and get back on the lead lap, get back in a contention with the leaders. Otherwise, he would have been racing to stay on the lead lap, but I'm sure it wasn't intentional, that spin back around. As you say, he was just trying to get the throttle down and get back into the racing, but these cars only have 2 gears, and the first gear will spin out on you, and the second gear you use when you're up to full speed. So, yeah, it's just unfortunate the way that goes sometimes. Fortunately, all 15 cars still are in the race. Ralph Connor Jr. did return to the circuit, but he is 5 laps down, should get one of those back under this caution flag. But from what I've been seeing, Evan, even though we have seen 2 cautions early on here, most of the racing has been relatively clean. I have a feeling that we are going to get a long green flag run at some point, and that is going to be trouble for all these drivers who have already lost a lap or 2.
It seems to be the anatomy, I guess, of these races, that you'll get a couple of cautions early because, again, we talked about the top 8 inversion. You have guys that are faster than the guys in front of them in the middle of the pack where all the racing's going on, trying to get through the field, trying to get back to the front. So you need this opening portion of the race to try to weed your way through. Everybody kind of balances out. Then you're going to get to that middle portion, as you said, which essentially we're at with already 21 laps in the books out of 75, and this one very quickly going by past quarter distance already. long green flag stretch in the middle, and then who knows what happens at the end, because people start to turn the wick up just a little bit, and well, things always get fun from there. The lucky dog on this caution flag going to go to the 13 of Ryan Nuts, so that car going to rejoin the lead lappers. Will have 12 total, rather, on the lead lap. The two drivers that sit 1 lap in the negatives, Lucas Denziano and Brad Speidel, they will fight amongst each other for the next lucky dog for the next caution flag. Ralph Connor Jr. is 5 laps down, just now back on track.
Pace car lights have gone off as the field work our way through turns 1 and 2. David Badillo leads Brian Neff, Ernest Brown, Ronald Henry and Matt Shinovsky. That rounds out the top 5. These races can be sprint races, and if David Badillo keeps doing what he is doing on these restarts, he could certainly be looking good for the winner's circle tonight.
Pace car back down and out of the way. The 16 looking for the good jump like last time. Not going to happen. And on the outside, Brian Neff with the jump to your race leader. He's got to back it off and give that spot up or face a penalty. He drops back now to side by side for second, as it is all now David Bodio down at quarter number 3.
Philip Temple's got turned out of turn 2 and basically clogged up the old track, and it has brought out an incident in turn 3 and 4, but not the caution. Matt Hoos has spun around. Philip Temples goes into the pits to get his car repaired. That's amazing that wasn't a bigger wreck than what it was.
Matt Hoos, a driver who has run strong and came home top 3 in the Crooksteel late model event just before this one, stuck in the back after getting contact in that incident, and you saw him get down into the inside into one of those dirt packets there that surrounds these lights on the inside of the racetrack. Now caution flag back out yet again. Spinner down the back. A whole lot of cars going a whole lot of different directions. Trouble for the 7 and the 26 cars. The SPCA New Hampshire machine of Donnie Moore gets into it with the 7 of Dennis Ellis. Caution flag is back out. And this is an incident, you saw the contact right there, Sam. Something we talked about pre-race is that you're hugging the curb so much in the corner that when you make that broad right arc out of the corner, head into 3 out of 2, you open up the bottom. That may be one of the only places for somebody to make a move. Well, the 26 took a nose to the inside, and it looked like Dennis Ellis was just loose. And unfortunately, he came down, collected the 26, and those 2 cars went around.
Dennis Ellis has unfortunately, not all of his own fault, been involved in a few incidents early on today. When it rains, it pours kind of effect. Fortunately for him, there's no incident count limit, but I'm sure he's going to want to stop spinning eventually. However, one of the big losers up front on this caution is David Badillo, because he had absolutely ran away from the rest of the field as a result of Brian Neff's jump on the restart and then backing off, and that threw everyone else off, caused all the incidents going down into turn 3 with Philip Temples, and as a result, David Badillo is just cruising, turning left and thinking, oh, this is great. All of a sudden, the yellow flag flies and all that lead goes away. He's got to do it all again.
And another thing, when these guys keep spinning out, is the fact that you cannot change your tires. So those tires are going to get heated up. They're going to get worn. Spinning does not help your cause when you're trying to make those Hoosier Racing tires last for 75 laps. Not going to be surprised that the guys that spin that end up at the back are only going to continue to fall further and further off of the guys up front, because those tires are getting eat up, because now a lot of them have already used up their one quick repair. You're starting to run out of those, and those cars, I mean, these cars can take a beating. They're made to bump a little bit. You see the metal tubing around these race cars, the chrome horn on the front. You can play with them a little bit, but you don't want to beat them up too much. You got to have something left for the end of this one, but we'll see what happens on this next restart. Going to be coming up here just a moment. Lights go off on the pace car, and we'll double them up back once again. This time, though, Ernest Brown will start in second. Brian Neff's going to find himself in third.
Yeah, and once again, if David Badillo just gets a good restart, he should be able to lead him off into the first turn. However, I think this is the first time Brian Neff has been on the second row tonight. Let's see if he can get back up there in the top 2.
The pace car gone, and I'll tell you, the 16 changing it up this time immediately on the accelerator as the green flag flies back down the 1. The inside, the place to be by far, as the Frankenstein Racing of rate of Ernest Brown backwards on the outside, and it's the Lone Star Texas Grill Machine down on the bottom. Here comes the 75 of Ronald Henry. Top 4 now, single file to 1, led by the 16 of David Bodio still. Side by side, 5th contact. Look at that, the 7 car. Give it a shot to Ty Johnson in 1 and 2.
Yeah, not the cleanest race so far by Dennis Ellis, but he's making it work. Here he goes underneath Ty Johnson, who has done well to get up here from 14th on the grid. but now is running in 6th place. I'm sure he'll take that. He can't get down low though, because here comes Lyle Jewell on the inside. So unfortunately, Ty Johnston is going to stop.
Oh, the 7 sideways. And he'll get into the 55, down to the apron, and spinning goes Dennis Ellis. That car, the A-Box Mobile Storage 7, turned around. He'll take the quick toe to pit road, and his night, just like that, may very well be done. We saw that 7 spin on the back straightaway to bring out the last caution, and he was flying through the field like it was nothing. They say loose is fast, but not when it's that sideways. He was making passes, but couldn't keep the back end under him.
Yeah, and even though it's a quick toe, you just push a button and it takes you to the pits. It's not quick in how long it's going to take the pace car to pull him around there, and he's going to lose multiple laps while the rest of the field stay under green flag racing. As a result of all that, the top 4 have been able to break away. David Badillo, Brian Neff, who got a great restart and worked his way back up into 2nd. Ronald Henry, the fastest driver in practice, he has now worked his way up into 3rd. And Ernest Brown, just hanging out in the top 5 so far, is rounding out that top 4 pack. And I can tell you, Dennis Ellis has retired from the race.
Dennis Ellis going to be the first driver to officially park his machine on tonight. The A-Box Mobile Storage number 7 car is done for the evening. That'll be a P15 result for him once Ralph Connor Jr., who's 5 laps down to the leaders, completes lap number 34 for him as the leaders work on lap 40. It is still David Bodio over Brian Neff. It's the way it's been all race long. They look so even, though. They've been playing games at a restart. Now they're going to have another one. Caution flag back in the air, and trouble for the 22. Was just talking about Ty Johnson, who is getting a little bit racy there with the 7 to Dennis Ellis. He is turned around sideways in quarter number 2, and he had a little bit of assistance on that one.
Yeah, we'll get a replay and see exactly what happened. I can tell you Matt Shinowski went outside the track, so he must have got a piece of that.
Shinosky on the bottom of the racetrack. Had a lane, but not much more than that. And, you know, the 22 probably could have given more room, but you never want to. And Shinosky gets into the left rear of Ty Johnson's machine. Johnson goes sideways, and, you know, Shinosky got clipped in the right rear as the 22 spun around, so that's how he found himself up and outside of the racetrack, out in the dried-out sand by the back straightaway wall. The 19 car of Philip Temples looks like he'll get checked up in all of that and maybe avoids major damage. Just kind of slid the right side of that race car into the 22, but again, another quick caution, and although it seems like you're getting really short stints, and now things are really starting to pick up action-wise because we're past the halfway point, so don't start to think that these guys are going to settle down at any time soon, because the checker is getting closer and closer with each lap that's put in the books.
Absolutely, we're already beyond the halfway point. Now, right when the caution flew, I began to see David Badillo was very lucky the caution flew when it did, because he was really beginning to lose the back end of his modified car, trying to get the power down a bit early than what he needed to, and as a result, Brian Neff was only a few turns away, in my opinion, from being able to take the lead of this race. However, the downside Brian Neff has here is he's going to restart on the high side, which is not the preferred line, and all of a sudden the driver who's going to be restarting in 3rd, which I think is the 2nd best place to be in on the restart, the first obviously being the leader, is Ronald Henry. Ronald Henry, the fastest driver in practice, has worked his way up to 3rd. I think he might be able to get into 2nd on this restart, and if he does, and if he's able to pressure David Badillo into a mistake that Badillo almost made when the caution flew, I have a feeling we may soon have a new leader here at Oxford Plains.
Getting set for a restart at 30 laps to go in the Quality Racing Syndicate 75. Tonight's race is presented by the Quality Racing Syndicate, an organizing body for professional sim racing organizations and leagues, including the MX5 World Tour, that can be viewed right here on GSRC. The pace car down and away. Green flag flies yet again, and we're back underway. And I'll tell you, Bodio catches the entire field sleepy, the top 3 single file to 1 after a brilliant start from the 16 car.
Yeah, that was exactly the restart Brian Neff needed as well to get them to 2nd. I have a feeling he's going to take off right where he left and pressure Badillo for that lead. Henry should have been quick on the gas pedal, and he wasn't. That's going to hurt him, but right now the battle's for 4.
And fourth on back has been a troublesome spot off of these restarts, which is where that outside just can't find a spot down in line. And you see the Krankenstein racing a rate machine up on the top of the racetrack. Ernest Brown started in fourth, runs fifth right now, and he's not going to find a spot in line or any friends because the SPCA New Hampshire 26 of Donnie Moore, he'll slot through in the bottom. That car is going to go from 6th to 5th and drop the 8 car now back into P6.
Continuing to watch the drivers up front, nothing happening yet, but Neff is definitely pressuring Badillo. They're currently coming around to complete lap 49. Next time around they will complete lap 50, and then they will have only 25 laps to go. I just keep seeing mistakes from Badillo. I don't think he can hold on to this lead for that much longer.
Well, you see the pressure being applied for the top spot in this race. Brian Neff started on pole position, and he keeps falling back to second. He did that on the initial drop at a green flag and has not been able to get past him since. The Winn-Dixie 60 still sits in second to the 16. Ronald Henry, fastest car in practice, in front of Bodio and Neff, as they respectively run right now 1-2. They were 2-3 in the practice session to the 75. The Lone Star Texas Grill car still continues to lurk, but not put it on an immediate fight. Meanwhile, that 60 starting to get racy and trying to go to the bottom.
Yes, he is right on the bumper of Badillo here. Badillo doing everything right now, but how much longer can he hold on? Neff hasn't used the chrome horn yet. I have a feeling as the laps wind down that may change. Badillo drifts up the track and Neff dives it in, but like we say, we've got over 20 laps to go. He's not ready to use the chrome horn yet, but as these two battle, that has brought Ronald Henry back in. And there's a caution.
Caution flag back out as we approach the final laps in this one. Trouble for Philip Temples, the number 19 machine, a innocent victim in the troubles of the 76 machine. It all started with Brad Speidel, who started this race in 8th, and it's exactly where he was running. However, he slid high into quarter number 3, got a little bit sideways, it overcorrected, and the Good Time Ice machine was sideways in the middle of the racetrack. The 19 involved. It also looks like another car that may have gotten a significant piece of that may have been the 57, Lucas Stinziano. Looks like maybe right side damage on that car. We'll keep on ticking though, and that car going to catch back up to the back of the field. Again, these cars, they can take a lick once or twice. You look on board with Philip Temples, you'll see his view of it. But again, 10 laps and caution now. We're into the final 20.
Absolutely, and this will be about a 4-lap caution, so it'll be about lap 60 when we get going, at what point it will only be 15 to go. No green-white checkers in iRacing, so that they might just be racing to 5 to go, and I have a feeling Brian Neff will be more than conscious of that fact, because I think Badillo calmed down a lot during that run. He was making mistakes, but he wasn't making mistakes that were huge enough to cost him the lead. Now, you follow these guys a lot more than I do, Evan. Is Brian Neff someone who will use that chrome horn to take the win? Because if he is, I have a feeling that might be what he's going to have to do here.
I'll tell you this, Brian Neff ran 8th last week, so he's not going to enjoy a poor finish by his standards for the 60 Winn-Dixie machine. He is 9th in the championship standings. Although it's only 1 point between 1st and 2nd, I can guarantee you that he'll try something to go for it nonetheless. And we have seen, if anything tonight, it's been very inconsistent up front. On the initial drop to green flag, David Bodio beat Brian Neff to corner 1 on the outside. Since then, it's been the car in 3rd place who's sometimes gotten to the inside before the guy that starts on the outside of the front row, and then sometimes it's been no challenge for a second. The biggest key, though, for Brian Neff is trying to predict what the 16 of David Bodio is going to do on the restart, and that's something that Jimmy John's machine has been very good at, is keeping it mixed up every single time.
You took the words right out of my mouth. He has done absolutely no rhyme or reason to it, but the last 2 he has been quick to restart, so let's see if everyone else jumps on the loud pedal as soon as the pace car turns left.
Could be for the final time. 16 laps to go. Brian Neff tries to think about it, backs off, and in the 16 capitalizes. Green flag flies back down to quarter number 1, and David Bodio already 1 car length to get over Brian Neff. Having a battle though for 2nd. Ronald Henry is able to slot in for the 3rd position. The 26 of Donnie Moore is going to take 5th, and Lowell Jewell, championship leader, going backwards on the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Loudrew had worked his way up to 4th on that restart, but now he has fallen all the way back to 6th, outside the top 5 now as Ernest Brown takes that spot. But the driver, he may not be leading, but he got the exact restart he needed to get, and that was Brian Neff. He was able to filter his way into 2nd. I think he'll be able to hold off Ronald Henry for 3rd, and as soon as he catches David Badillo, if he can, because David's actually pulled a bit of a gap on him right now, he can dictate the outcome of this race with the use of that front bumper.
One thing that we saw before we went on air tonight was in that Crooksdale 8 Moto Series race, the top 3 were all over each other's bumper to the end. They didn't once touch each other. They didn't once separate in the final 15 laps. If you're close to somebody in speed, it is extremely difficult to set them up and put a move on him. It's the Ford-powered number 60, though, who is on the attack. Can he make up 0.3 of a second in 11 laps, which will be what's left on the board this time by? Another question comes, do you go green all the way? A yellow flag in final 4 laps would end us under a caution flag condition.
Yeah, sometimes I would say 5 laps, but it seems we've been having quick cautions today. I will tell you that I think Neff has been able to run down Badillo enough. It's not yet, and not enough yet, and currently they have less than 10 laps to go now. Badillo is doing everything right. As long as he doesn't make mistakes, he should be able to take the W here, providing we don't get a caution flag. And some drivers in the middle of a pack are closely bunched together. They're not racing each other yet, but if they get into each other, that could bring the caution out, and that could change everything.
All of the drivers that have fallen 1 lap into the negative so far and still had a raceable race car are back on the lead lap. There's 12 strong. The only driver still on track off the lead lap is Ralph Cotter Jr. That driver had engine issues earlier. That's why he is so far to the negative. So a caution would not change up the lead lap scenario. What you get is what you got. Play with the hand you have been dealt. David Bodio, Brian Neff, and Ronald Henry. 3 drivers, 0.7 of a second. The gap between the top 2, not by a whole lot, but slowly and surely it's starting to close. How aggressive does that 60 car get? 6 laps to go this time by.
Badillo has been making a couple of mistakes. Philip Temples, by the way, has pulled his car into the pits, so it looks like he'll finish 14th at this rate, if my timing and scoring is correct. But there's a much bigger question on right now, and that is who is going to finish first. I don't believe either of these 2 drivers have a win yet this season. They're not thinking about points right now, Evan. I have a feeling both of them are going to be racing for the win. They're coming around 4 laps to go.
Yeah, they run 1-2 right now on the racetrack, respectively. They run 8th and 9th in the points. They need a win to try to get their championship run back on track before they get to that second half of the season, which is only about 2 weeks away from right now. At this point, a caution would end this race. Coming down to the end of the Quality Racing Syndicate 75. It is 2-car race now. It's a 2-horse battle up front. If they get physical, though, Ronald Henry in 3rd, don't count him out.
Yeah, the best thing I think Neff can try and do is a crossover move. He can try and look to the outside on the entry and maybe attempt to dive down the inside on the exit, or maybe he'll just attempt one here anyway. They're about to take a white flag. If a wreck happens on the final lap, that won't end the race. They're about to take a white here. They're racing to the checker.
The 60 gave a shot in quarter 1 at 2 laps to go. It dropped them back. The gap is 1 car length. Final shot for Brian Neff to do anything. The Jimmy John 16 is too far away. Corner 4, checkered flag will fly, and the win goes to the 16 of David Bodio after starting in 2nd. Leads basically the whole way in this one after starting on the outside of the front row. Brian Neff gave it everything he had. He got to him at 2 to go, but when he gave him that shot down in 1 and 2 sim, it put him too far behind to be able to get back to him a second time, and a great win for the 16 team, who didn't have a spectacular result last week at Five Flag Speedway, was able to walk away with the 7th as a first win on this 2015 Season 3 championship.
Yeah, you're talking about that shot with 2 to go. I mean, Brian Neff didn't have a heck of a lot of a gap over Ronald Henry, but I think he had enough that he could have tried the looking high, crossing over down the inside, but kudos to David Badillo. At the end of the race, he was making a couple of mistakes in the middle of the race, but got lucky. But towards the end of the race, he just drove flawlessly, and really the only driver who made the pass for the lead tonight ended up being a pass for the win. Congratulations, David. You deserve that one.
That exciting finish puts David Bodio at the top of the podium over Brian Neff and Ronald Henry. Biggest mover on the night, Donnie Moore up from 10th to 4th, and then rounding out your top 5 was Ernest Brown. We'll recap where everybody finished this one off, and we'll talk to some of the top 3 finishers with the post-race show for the virtual Oxford Plains Speedway. We'll be right back on the Global Sim Racing channel. We're back live at the virtual Oxford Plains Speedway on the Global Sim Racing channel. You're watching our continued coverage of the 2015 Season 3 Championship with the Bootleg Racing League Outlaw Modified Series. Short track Saturday night action is in the books tonight after the Quality Racing Syndicate 75 from the Oxford Plains Speedway in Oxford, Maine comes to a close. It is the 16 of David Bodio who takes home the top spot in this one. We'll give you your GSRC race results as we take a look at where everybody came home in this one. It was a second to Brian Neff, who comes home 0.3 of a second off of the spot that he started in and evidently wanted to get at the end. In front of Ronald Henry, who was able to get a third tonight after being fastest in practice. Donnie Moore up 6 spots to take home a P4, and then as well, Ernest Brown's in the brake machine comes home and rounds out your top 5.
Loudrell had a bit of a rough restart. He ended up falling to 6th place. Matt Hoos was able to hang on to a 7th place. Didn't talk about him a whole lot. Ryan Nuss, I believe he had a bit of a rough start to the race. He was able to come home in the top 10. He placed 8th, right in the middle of the field. Rounding out the top 10 behind him were Matt Shinoski and Ty Johnson. Evan?
And then Lucas Stenziano and Brad Spidle, the final 2 drivers that finish on the lead lap in this one, and the drivers from here on out had some severe issues. Ralph Cotter Jr. caught up in an incident early, 5 laps down at the end of it all. Disappointing finish for 13th. And Philip Temples, Dennis Ellis, 14th and 15th respectively. Both of those drivers had incidents that effectively took them out of this race. We'll talk to some of the drivers now. He came home in third 1 week ago at the Five Flag Speedway. He'll back it up with, again, a P3 tonight. The 75 of Ronald Henry comes home at a bottom step of the podium. First off, Ronald, again, congratulations. Solid run for you and the guys tonight. Fastest car in practice. One of the fastest guys out there in the race. You were able to get up there with Brian Neff and David Bodio at the end fighting for the win. A P3 car, though, when it was all said and done. How was the race?
Well, it was... I had a blast. Once I got into third, I didn't want to be under bumper in case something happened. I wanted to just leave just enough room for me to, avoid anything. I once in a while I tried go to see if I could catch him, which I did. So I backed out a bit every time. I had 2 horrible restarts though. Normally, I don't have bad restarts like that, especially here. So I don't know what happened there. I'll have to check out the replay.
It was a very difficult race for sure. We talk about how all of these racetracks have very different characteristics. Last week, you guys were at Five Flags. You finished exactly where you do tonight. So you're doing good as far as points. Try to climb your way back up to the top there after entering tonight 5th overall. Keeping yourself in a conversation for sure now. 4 races down out of 11. But this Oxford Plains Speedway, a very flat racetrack, a very difficult racetrack to pass at. How did you find the handling on the race car?
As long as you don't go past the midway of the track, you're fine. You can always find traction there. But if you go over that, if you pass that half the track width, then you start to slide a little bit off on the outside. Makes it really hard to corner it afterwards. So that's what I've always been doing here, and it works.
You guys take a look at your performance so far. 4 races down and still about 7 to go, but knocking off podiums after podiums now, back-to-back weeks for that result. Still looking forward to that first trip, though, to Victory Lane in this 2015 Season 3 campaign. You guys are going to be going to the Thompson Speedway next week. You think maybe that's a place you can put her in Victory Lane at?
Yeah, I think the car is pretty consistent. I can be fairly... fast, and I can be a threat. I think at any track there, the car is just great. This track that we were just on is not one of my favorites. It's a follow the leader kind of track. Next race is totally different. I'm hoping to get the first win of the season. Yeah.
Well, I do have to tell you, I was in Canada a couple of weeks ago. I think it was Mississauga or Vaughan. I'm not sure. But I did go to a Lone Star Texas Grill. It was very good. So any sponsors or shout-outs you want to throw out there on that 75 machine?
Of course, Lone Star, as you just mentioned. Today's I feel bad now because I don't remember the sponsor of this race day, but I really appreciate the donation. For us to be alive, it's always a blast. And again, Lowell and Matt, I seem to repeat myself all the time, but it's a hard job, and I'm glad they're doing it, not me. And of course, you guys do a great job broadcasting our races. So, really enjoyed doing it.
All right, Ronald, thanks, sir. Stick it around after this one. Take it over to talk with us. Congratulations on your third from last week, and then again, congratulations on your good finish this week. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, sir.
That is your third place finisher tonight for the virtual Oxford Plains Speedway. Ronald Henry comes home on the bottom step of the podium in third after starting in 5th. A little bit up the pit lane, down in the number 1 pit box for the driver that started on pole position, however, comes home bridesmaid tonight. Samuel Ryman, you have caught up with Brian Neff.
Yes, we have, Brian Neff. You finished second place. We could tell you were looking for the lead. Is there anything you could have done different at the end there?
No, it's pretty much a one-groove racetrack here at Oxford.
Yeah, so you weren't going to use the chrome horn at all to try and get that top spot away?
I used it just a tiny bit, but it was a pretty clean race tonight. I would have had pretty much wreck him to win it. So, no sense in doing that.
were you more concerned with trying to pass David Badillo, or were you concerned more with the car behind you, Ronald Henry, trying to get by you?
Ron had fallen back just a little bit. I know in practice he was a lot faster than us. I wasn't really too worried about it there at the end. I really expected it to be a lot closer than it was with Ron and us two up front.
Well, you were still able to bring it home in second. I know you probably would have liked to spot more. However, still a solid points night. We go to Thompson next race. Are you looking forward to that track?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I believe that particular race last season cost me a seat on the bench, so I'm hoping to improve on that this season. But I really like Thompson, so.
All right. Well, is there anyone else you'd like to thank? Anything else you'd like to say before we let you go and rest after a solid performance here tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Lowell and Matt and all the guys. Everybody over here races hard. They race clean. I'd like to thank the sponsor of tonight's race, Quality Racing Syndicate. We sure appreciate all the help we can get. And I look forward to Thompson next week. I hope to have a little better showing next week.
All right, well, congratulations on your second. Commiserations that it wasn't first, but thanks for putting on the great show tonight. We'll see you next week.
All right, guys, thanks for all you do, too.
And I'll hand it back to Evan.
We've been trying to get our race winner on the radio. Again, the 16 of David Bodio comes home at the top of the pile. We'll give him one more ring. David, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
There you go. You started this race in second, and we're second in practice. So, if the race went all smooth and calm, it should have been a bridesmaid spot for you guys. But, not only did you dominate those restarts since you got to the top spot, but maybe when everybody else was kind of mellowed out at the start of that one, you went from the outside of the front row to the top spot early and en route to the first checkered flag for you on this 2015 Season 3 campaign. How'd you get it done, though, first off, to get this race started, and how did you hold off Brian Neff for the 60 laps after that?
I knew coming into this that, starting on the outside would be tough, so I made sure that I got a good start there, and I think I just got ahead of Brian a little bit right from the get-go.
It's a very difficult racetrack to drive at. The 60 gave you a shot with 2 laps to go. You hung on to it. Was the key there holding the bottom, not opening up space, or, how focused were you on those guys behind you, or were you just trying to keep the eyes going straight?
Oxford's actually one of my favorite tracks, so I knew it was key to stay right down on the bottom there. That's the fast way around here, and one of those places you got to go slower to go fast.
So this season's still relatively young, although we're very quickly getting into close to the halfway point in this one. You guys entered tonight 8th in the championship. Gonna get all the points you can, 14 for taking home the win. It is still a long hill to climb, though, if you want to be able to be up there by the end of this season. A decent finish 1 week ago with a 7th, a win tonight. Where's your guys' confidence level?
I'm hoping to run the rest and see what I can bring of it. I mean, I missed the first race at Martinsville, so, put me down right away. But we'll see, and just here to have fun.
So because of the field inversion, it's going to be a mid-pack start for you next week at the virtual Thompson Speedway. You liked Oxford, you won Oxford. What's your thought process going into round 5?
Thompson's probably number 2. It's a local track to me. I'm about 30 minutes from it, and hopefully we can repeat there.
That's bad news for everybody else, but as you guys go on that fight for what would be a back-to-back and a second win on the year, David, you dominated this one, got close at the end, but you kept that 16 machine out in front in the Jimmy John's car to Victory Lane. Sponsors and shout-outs, anybody you want to thank down here from Victory Lane?
Yeah, I want to thank Lowell and Matt for putting this league on. I came across it a few weeks ago, and it's been a great time running it, the last 3 weeks here, so look forward to what's to come.
Well, thanks for taking the time to stick around and talk with us. Congratulations on your win. Go enjoy it, and then we'll see you back out next week, right back to business.
Thanks, guys.
So, Samuel, your winner tonight is the 16 of David Podio. You mentioned he liked this racetrack, and he won, and he just said that if he had to put something near Oxford, it's Thompson next week. So if I'm anybody else, that's bad news. He did miss, as he mentioned, the season opener at Martinsville. in an 11-race series with the points so close, it's probably going to be nearly impossible to win from missing an entire race worth of points. But if you keep winning, who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the problem he'll have next week at Thompson is that he'll be starting, providing everyone shows up, in 8th position after winning tonight. And that could turn out to be difficult because even as fun as these tracks can be and as easy or as hard as they are to pass at, each race is only 75 laps long. And as we saw tonight, even with all the caution flags we have, those 75 laps go by in a hurry.
It was an exciting race from Oxford Plains for sure. We saw, a very different racetrack. We're going to go to something that's nothing like we'll see, like we saw, I guess, tonight, next week, when we go to the virtual Thompson Speedway. The same rules apply, though. It's a short track Saturday night. These guys are going to be beating and banging, but, these drivers' mentalities are going to start to change over the next couple of races. We mentioned that after race 4 of 11, that's past 1/3, and then you mentioned that, once we get past race number 5 and then through 6, 1 week after that, you're already at the halfway point. So, although these first couple of races, almost related to this race entirely. Start of the race, everybody's hyped up, but maybe you're not thinking that first drop of the green flag is going to be the decision maker. The 16 car did. He took advantage of it. Relate that to the season, These guys may be a little bit relaxed into the start before they start stressing over these final couple of races. Once we get maybe a month or so from now and you're into the final 4 and then 3 races, really where you start to crunch the numbers. It's getting everything you can out of these opening races, I think, that could set the stage as far as what we're going to see in the championship rolling forward. But 4 down, 7 to go, really starting to get down to the bulk of this season, the heart of it, and we should still continue to see great racing like we've seen all season so far.
Absolutely, and let's not forget that with the invert of the qualifying order each race and the way the point system is so tied together, 1 point between each position, the honest truth is that it will come down to the final round for who's going to win this championship. And honestly, we might have, like we did last season, where there are a couple of drivers tied on points and it's a matter of who finishes in front of the other driver, and it confuses the lead British commentator. I'm sorry, probably shouldn't have reminisced on that. However, but the fact of the matter is, though, that even though it's going to come down to that, every point is going to count. And the way to get those extra points, the way to win, is to go into a race with confidence and with a plan. And that is what David Badillo does tonight. And if he is confident at Thompson, if he can pull that off again 2 weeks in a row, right before the halfway point of the season, that is going to be a little bit of a warning flag to the other drivers.
We thought that this one would pan out with some late race drama. It did. No plus or minus, though, in the final restart. The 16, in dominating fashion after starting in second, took control of this race. Brian Neff put up a hell of a fight, but wasn't able to get the job done. And again, your winner in round number 4, Quality Racing Syndicate 75, is the 16 Jimmy John's entry of David Badillo. Do want to thank all of the people here as we step away and put a bow on this one, who helped us make round 4 possible and allowed you guys to tune in, allow us to do what we do, and bring the sim racing to you every single night here on the week, especially short track Saturday nights. Do want to thank iRacing.com, XSplit, the Audio Technica Corporation, Avery Media USA for providing with the technical stuff that allows us to put on these streams. Additional thanks, as always, to Dougie Beard for providing us with our camera sets. Music provided by Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde. Their information is on the screen. You can hit them up there to let them know where you heard it, and make sure you support them for supporting us. Stay up to date with everything GSRC. You can check us out online at globalsimracingchannel.com, Twitter at GSR Channel, or on Facebook at facebook.com/globalsimracingchannel. For more series information on the Bootleg Racing League Outlaw Modified Series, you can find them as well on social media. That'll be facebook.com/Bootleg Racing League, or you can go to bootlegracingleague.com to find out results, points, and maybe even how to sign up and be here on track for the rest of this championship. If you're a fan of short track racing, and probably be a fan of a lot of whole other kinds of racing, and Sam, there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up in the next 7 days on GSRC.
Absolutely. Tomorrow at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Time, we have Skip Barbers at the Absolute Beginners Neagle Cup at Watkins Glen, and I am told that there is an epic lap guide ahead of that race, so be sure to tune in for the entire broadcast. Then one day later, on Monday, we got more road course racing at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time, and that will be the Autobahn Motor Car Group the AMG Sports Car Challenge Round 9 at Phillip Island, down under in Australia. That circuit always creates great racing. 2 days after, we will be back on Wednesday for the ASRS AMSOIL Truck Series, the last race before the start of a race at Michigan International Speedway. Who's going to make it in and who will have to wait till next season? We will find out 9 p.m. on Wednesday. Right after that on Wednesday at 10:35 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the IndyCar cars back in action with the Lionheart Racing Series Round 3 at Sonoma Raceway, the twisty road course over there in California. So all in all, in the first 5 races of this month, we are going to have 5 broadcasts for you on the GSRC. You're going to want to check it all out at www.globalsimracingchannel.com.
We got August kicked off tonight with some short track Saturday night sim racing action, and there is a plethora of stuff going on throughout the week. Not going to want to miss the Lionheart IndyCar Series first trip to a road course. That one is exciting. Wednesday nights, double headers, always make it that much more exciting. Until then, though, we're going to see you next Saturday night. That's August the 8th, 9 o'clock Eastern Time for the start of our coverage of the Bootleg Racing League Outlaw Modified Series, race number 5 for the virtual Thompson Speedway. That is going to be the Sim HQ Motorsports 75. Until then, again, a big congratulations to your winner in the 16. David Bodio wins the Quality Racing Syndicate 75 from Oxford Plains. On behalf of the broadcast crew tonight, alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, Samuel Ryman, and our director, Joe Peak, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week from the virtual Thompson Speedway. This has been the Global Sim Racing Channel.